I didn't start this because I believed in a miracle. Honestly, I started because my grandfather, at 72, looked at me with eyes that had lost their sparkle and said, "The body just quits. That's what happens." He wasn't sick, not in a way that had a name. He just seemed to be shrinking into himself, moving slower, sleeping more, and accepting a smaller and smaller life. It broke my heart, but what broke it more was that I didn't have a good argument against him. I thought he was right. I thought aging past 70 was just a quiet, dignified surrender to decline. But then, I spent a decade working with hundreds of individuals in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s who were the living contradiction to my grandfather's belief. They weren't running marathons or trying to look 30. They were just vibrant. They gardened, they debated politics, they traveled, they laughed with a fullness that I hadn't felt since I was a child. I didn't approach them as a believer in anti-aging magic. I approached them as a curious skeptic, a student of the human body, trying to figure out what the hell they were doing that my grandfather wasn't. What I found wasn't a secret pill or a hidden fountain. It was a pattern. It was a series of subtle, almost invisible things that were happening inside their bodies, or rather, things that weren't happening. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. After 70, your body enters a new phase of life. It's not just a continuation of your 60s. It's a distinct physiological landscape with its own rules, its own vulnerabilities, and its own incredible potential for resilience. Most people are completely unprepared for this transition because they're still fighting the battles of their 50s, while a whole new war is quietly brewing within. We're going to pull back the curtain on that war today. We're going to look at the 5 specific, inevitable shifts that begin to occur after the 7th decade. But we're not going to look at them with fear. We're going to look at them with the cool, analytical eye of a biologist. We're going to understand the mechanism behind each one, because once you understand the why, the fear dissolves and a clear path forward appears. We're going to talk about things like the cephalic phase of digestion and how it shuts down, the vagus nerve and its weakening signal, and the microcirculation that begins to slow to a trickle. This isn't about stopping time. It's about understanding the new territory you're in so you can navigate it with wisdom rather than just stumbling through the dark. We're going to uncover the 5 things that start happening, and by the end, I'm going to show you that the single most powerful tool for navigating them isn't a thing you can buy. It's a thing you already have. Let's begin with the first shift, the one I saw in my grandfather most profoundly. It's the one that starts not in your muscles or your bones, but in your brain's relationship with the world. 1. The quieting of the cephalic phase. The brain stops answering the bell. When you look at a sizzling steak, what happens? When you smell fresh bread baking, what does your body do? For most of your life, it has a powerful, involuntary reaction. Your mouth waters. Your stomach may even growl. This is the cephalic phase of digestion, from the Greek word kephale, meaning head. It's the brain's way of priming the digestive pump. It's a neurological signal that travels down the vagus nerve, telling your stomach to start churning out acid, your pancreas to release enzymes, and your entire gut to prepare for incoming nutrients. For decades, this system works like a well-oiled machine. The sensory experience of food, its sight, smell, and even thought, triggers a cascade of preparation. After 70, this bell begins to ring with a much quieter tone. The sensory signaling from the brain to the gut becomes muted. It's not that you can't smell the bread, it's that the smell no longer triggers the same powerful physiological response. The vagus nerve, that superhighway of communication between the brain and the viscera, loses some of its signal strength. The neurological cascade that once so reliably prepared your body for digestion becomes a trickle. This has profound consequences. You see, digestion doesn't start in the stomach, it starts in the brain. If the brain doesn't fully signal food is coming, the stomach and intestines are caught off guard. They're not ready. The stomach acid might be insufficient. The enzymes might be slow to arrive. The rhythmic contractions of the intestines, known as peristalsis, might be weaker. This leads to the single most common complaint I hear from people over 70. Food just sits in my stomach, or I'm just not as hungry as I used to be. It's not that they don't need the food, it's that the homeostasis, the balanced communication loop between brain and gut, has been disrupted. The engine isn't getting the spark it needs to fire efficiently. This explains why appetite can wane so dramatically. If your body doesn't prime itself to receive food, eating becomes a chore. It can lead to unintentional weight loss, nutrient deficiencies, and a dangerous cycle of frailty. The mechanism is a breakdown in communication. The head and the gut are no longer on the same wavelength. The cephalic phase response is failing to initiate, leaving the digestive system in a state of cold start inertia, struggling to process fuel without the proper warm-up. It's the first and most foundational shift, because if the body can't properly take in and process fuel, every other system is compromised. 2. The stiffening of the arterial tree. When the rivers lose their spring, think of your cardiovascular system not as a series of rigid pipes, but as a living, breathing tree. The heart is the pump at the base, and the arteries are the branches designed to flex and sway with every pulse of water. For decades, this tree is supple. Its walls are elastic, containing a delicate layer of smooth muscle and a protein called elastin. With each beat of your heart, the aorta, the grand river of your body, expands to accept the rush of blood. It's a hydraulic shock absorber. This elasticity protects the delicate organs downstream, like the kidneys and the brain, from the full force of the pulse. It's a beautifully engineered system that relies on flexibility. After 70, that flexibility begins to diminish. The tree slowly hardens. The elastin in the arterial walls frays and breaks down, replaced by stiffer collagen fibers. This process, arteriosclerosis, or the hardening of the arteries, isn't just about plaque buildup. That's atherosclerosis. It's a fundamental change in the material of the vessel wall itself. The aorta loses its ability to stretch. Now, when the heart beats, that shock wave isn't absorbed. It travels faster and with more force all the way to the tiny, delicate vessels in the brain and kidneys. This has a direct impact on a critical number, your blood pressure, specifically your systolic pressure, the top number. As the arteries stiffen, the systolic pressure naturally rises. It's the body's attempt to push blood through a less compliant system. But this higher pressure, combined with the loss of the shock absorber, means that the microcirculation, the tiny capillaries that feed your tissues, is subjected to a violent, pulsatile flow instead of a gentle, steady stream. It's like watering your garden with a fire hose instead of a sprinkler. The delicate beds of capillaries in your brain, your kidneys, and your retinas can be damaged by this constant pounding. This shift is silent. You don't feel your aorta getting stiffer, but the consequences are everywhere. It contributes to the subtle cognitive decline many notice because the brain's microvessels are being stressed. It taxes the kidneys, which rely on a stable, gentle pressure to filter blood. The mechanism is the loss of elasticity, turning a supple, shock-absorbing river system into a rigid set of pipes, transmitting every beat's force deep into the body's most vulnerable terrain. It's a shift from a graceful dance of pressure and release to a relentless, unyielding hammering. 3. The fraying of the myelin sheath, when the wires start to short. Your nervous system is the body's electrical grid. Every thought, every movement, every sensation is a tiny electrical impulse racing along a nerve fiber. But these nerve fibers aren't bare wires. They are insulated by a fatty substance called myelin. Think of it like the plastic coating on a copper wire. This sheath serves two critical purposes. It speeds up the transmission of the electrical signal, and it prevents the signal from leaking out and short-circuiting with neighboring wires. For decades, this insulation is thick and robust, allowing signals to travel at incredible speeds, up to 200 miles per hour. After 70, this insulation begins to fray. The myelin sheath can thin and degrade. This process is a natural part of aging, a slow wear and tear on the system. It's not the dramatic demyelination of diseases like MS, but a gradual, subtle erosion. The consequence is a slowing of nerve conduction velocity. The signals don't travel as fast, they can leak. The crisp, clear message from your brain to your muscle becomes a bit fuzzy. This explains so much of what we accept as normal aging. That slight delay in reaction time, it's the myelin. The feeling of being a little off balance, it's the myelin. The slower processing of new information, it's the myelin. It's not that the brain can't think, it's that the signals carrying those thoughts are traveling on older, frayed wires. The communication between different parts of the brain and between the brain and the body becomes slightly delayed and less precise. Furthermore, this affects the gut-brain axis. The vagus nerve, that critical information highway we talked about, is a bundle of these myelinated fibers. As its insulation degrades, the quality of the communication between the gut microbiome and the brain diminishes. The gut sends signals of satiety, of inflammation, of nutrient status, but these signals arrive at the brain's central station garbled or weak. The brain's commands to the gut, release enzymes, contract, are similarly muted. This neurological static contributes to digestive issues, mood changes, and a general sense of disconnection between what the body feels and what the mind perceives. The grid is aging, the wires are wearing out, and the once brilliant communication network is experiencing a slow, pervasive brownout. 4. The atrophy of the muscle pump. The collapse of the secondary heart. We are taught that the heart is the sole driver of circulation, but that's only half the story. You have a second heart, and it's located in your legs. It's called the skeletal muscle pump, specifically the calf muscle. Every time you walk, every time you contract your calf muscles, they squeeze the deep veins in your legs. This squeezing action pushes blood upward against gravity, back toward the heart. One-way valves in the veins ensure the blood doesn't fall back down. For decades, this system works in beautiful synergy. Your primary heart pumps blood out, and your secondary muscular hearts pump it back in. After 70, this secondary heart begins to weaken through a process called sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass and strength. As the calf muscles atrophy, they lose their power as a pump. They contract with less force, the squeeze on the deep veins is weaker, blood begins to pool in the lower extremities. It's not being efficiently returned to the central circulation. This has a cascade of effects. First, it puts more strain on the primary heart. It now has to work harder to pull that blood back up because the auxiliary pumps have gone on strike. This can contribute to feelings of fatigue and shortness of breath. Second, the pooling blood increases pressure in the veins of the legs, leading to varicose veins and fluid buildup, or edema, in the ankles and feet. Third, and most critically, slow-moving, pooling blood is a primary environment for the formation of blood clots, or deep vein thrombosis. But the mechanism goes deeper. This inefficient venous return affects the entire circulatory system's ability to maintain homeostasis. If blood is pooling in the legs, there's less blood available for the central circulation. The body perceives this as a potential drop in volume and may react by increasing heart rate or constricting blood vessels elsewhere. It's a compensatory mechanism that puts the entire system under chronic low-grade stress. The elegant two-pump system becomes a one-pump system working overtime, struggling to circulate blood through a landscape where the rivers are running slower and pooling in the valleys. The secondary heart, once a powerful ally, has fallen silent. 5. The desynchronization of the circadian rhythm. The body's clock loses time. Deep within your brain, in a region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, sits a master clock. It's a tiny bundle of neurons that orchestrates the daily rhythms of your entire body. It tells your liver when to process nutrients, your gut when to produce enzymes, your heart when to raise and lower its rate, and your brain when to release melatonin for sleep. This master clock is set by the most powerful time giver in nature, light. For decades, this clock runs with remarkable precision, synchronizing trillions of cellular processes to the 24-hour day. After 70, this master clock begins to lose its grip. The neurons in the suprachiasmatic nucleus can degenerate. The clock's signal weakens. It becomes less sensitive to the light cues that keep it accurate. As a result, the body's internal rhythms begin to drift and desynchronize. This is the root of the sleep changes so common in later years. Waking up at 3 a.m. and not being able to fall back asleep, feeling sleepy far too early in the evening, or experiencing fragmented, non-restorative sleep. But the consequences go far beyond just feeling tired. This desynchronization is a body-wide event. The digestive system's rhythm gets thrown off. The stomach may expect food at noon, but if the clock is drifting, its enzymes might be released at the wrong time, contributing to indigestion or poor nutrient extraction. The cardiovascular system's daily pattern of blood pressure fluctuation can be disrupted. The immune system's cyclical release of inflammatory markers can go awry, leading to chronic, low-grade inflammation that wasn't there before. The mechanism is a failure of coordination. The conductor of the orchestra is losing his timing, and the musicians, the liver, the heart, the gut, begin to play their own tunes at their own tempo. This internal chaos, this loss of homeostasis at the most fundamental level, is a massive, invisible stressor on the body. It taxes every system because every system relies on the predictable rhythm of the master clock to function efficiently. The body is no longer operating as a unified whole, but as a collection of increasingly independent parts, all moving to slightly different beats. This desynchronization is the silent orchestrator of much of the physical and cognitive decline we attribute to aging. The number one reveal, the master key is re-sensitization. So, there they are. The 5 shifts, the quieting of the cephalic phase, the stiffening of the arteries, the fraying of the myelin, the atrophy of the muscle pump, and the desynchronization of the circadian rhythm. It sounds like a grim diagnosis, a list of mechanical failures. And if you look at them as isolated problems, you might think the solution is a pill for blood pressure, a pill for sleep, a supplement for digestion. You'd be treating the symptoms, not the cause. But if you look deeper, you see a single, unifying theme. Every single one of these 5 shifts is a problem of communication and sensitivity. The cephalic phase quiets because the brain becomes less sensitive to sensory food cues. The arteries stiffen because the vessel walls lose their sensitivity to the flow of blood and the signals telling them to relax. The nerves slow because the myelin degrades, reducing the sensitivity and speed of signal transmission. The muscle pump atrophies because the nerves and hormones that signal the muscle to maintain itself become less sensitive. The circadian clock desynchronizes because the brain's master clock becomes less sensitive to light. Do you see it? Aging after 70 is not primarily a disease of wear and tear. It is a disease of disconnection. It is a slow turning down of the volume on all the signals that keep the body a unified, coherent, resilient whole. The body is still there. The potential is still there. But the lines of communication are going dead. The brain is shouting instructions, but the body is no longer listening. The body is sending signals of distress, but the brain isn't picking them up. This brings us back to my opening story. My grandfather wasn't falling apart because his parts were broken. He was falling apart because the conversation between his parts had stopped. The vibrant people I studied later weren't doing one magical thing. They were, often without knowing it, doing things that kept the lines of communication open. They were constantly, gently, resensitizing their systems. The real secret, the number one thing you need to understand, is that the method matters more than the substance. You can take all the supplements in the world for your heart, but if you aren't stimulating the vagus nerve, if you aren't engaging the sensory signaling of your muscles and your gut, the supplements are just expensive molecules floating in a disconnected system. The goal is not to fix a part. The goal is to reconnect the parts. It's to turn the volume back up. It's to make the brain listen to the gut and the heart listen to the muscles. It's to wake up the sleeping lines of communication. The master key to thriving after 70 is not a thing you consume. It is the daily, deliberate practice of resensitizing your body to itself and to the world. It is the art of reestablishing the conversation. The practical application: how to resensitize your body. You don't need a gym membership or a pharmacy. You need to send clear, strong signals. Here's how you begin to turn the volume back up, targeting each of the 5 shifts we discussed. For the cephalic phase, brain-gut connection. Engage all senses before eating. For 2 to 3 minutes before your meal, stop. Look at your food. Smell it intentionally. Take a small bite and hold it in your mouth, noticing the texture and taste before you swallow. This is not a mindfulness exercise for its own sake. It is a direct cephalic phase stimulation. You are ringing the bell loudly, telling the vagus nerve to prepare the stomach. Cook with whole spices. The volatile compounds in spices are powerful olfactory signals. They wake up the sensory nerves in your nose and mouth, triggering a strong digestive preparatory response. For arterial stiffness, cardiovascular system. Embrace temperature variation. At the end of your shower, turn the water to cool for just 30-60 seconds. This is a powerful signal to the endothelium, the lining of your blood vessels, which responds by releasing nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the body's most potent vasodilator. It tells the smooth muscle in the artery walls to relax, improving elasticity. Perform pulse wave stretches. Instead of static, held stretches, try gentle, rhythmic movements. For example, while seated, gently flex and point your foot rhythmically. This creates a wave of pressure and release in the blood vessels, challenging and exercising their elasticity in a gentle way. For myelin sheath, nervous system. Practice novel, complex movements. The brain craves novelty to build and maintain myelin. This doesn't mean complicated choreography. It means doing familiar things in unfamiliar ways. Brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand. Learn a new, simple skill like juggling scarves or a new card game. The key is the effort of learning, which forces the brain to send repeated signals down nerve pathways, stimulating the supporting cells, oligodendrocytes, to maintain the myelin sheath, hum or chant. The vagus nerve passes through the vocal cords. The act of humming or chanting creates a vibration that mechanically stimulates the nerve, strengthening its signal. It's a direct line to the gut-brain axis. For the muscle pump, venous return, ankle pumps. This is the single most important exercise for venous return. Several times a day, especially if you've been sitting, simply pump your ankles up and down and then circle them. This activates the calf muscle pump, squeezing blood back toward the heart. Do 20-30 reps, multiple times a day. Walk with intention. Don't just shuffle. Pick up your feet. Feel your calf muscles engage with each step. A brisk 10-minute walk where you consciously contract and release your calves is a workout for your secondary heart. For the circadian rhythm, master clock, get morning light on your skin and in your eyes. Within an hour of waking, go outside for 10-15 minutes. Do not wear sunglasses. The bright light, especially the blue wavelengths, is the primary signal that sets the master clock for the entire day. Even on a cloudy day, outdoor light is hundreds of times brighter than indoor light. Dim the lights at night. 2 hours before bed, start lowering the light levels in your home. Switch to lamps. Avoid overhead lights. This signals to the brain that the day is ending, allowing the natural cascade of melatonin to begin. This resensitizes the clock to the natural light-dark cycle. Critical safety warnings. This is a path of gentle reawakening, not aggressive intervention. Please listen to your body and consult with your healthcare provider before making significant changes, especially if you have pre-existing conditions. Who should not do this without professional guidance? Anyone with unstable blood pressure, particularly if you are on medication that affects it. The cool showers and gentle movements can still have a physiological effect. Those with severe neuropathy or balance issues should be extremely cautious with novel movements. Anyone with a diagnosed heart condition, especially congestive heart failure, must speak to their cardiologist before implementing any protocol that affects circulation, like ankle pumps and cool showers, as it can alter fluid dynamics. Drug interactions. Be aware that resensitizing your system can change how your body responds to medication. For example, improving circulation and blood vessel elasticity could potentially lower your blood pressure further, which might interact with antihypertensive drugs. If you are on blood pressure medication, monitor your numbers and keep your doctor informed. When to stop? Stop any activity that causes pain, not just mild discomfort, but sharp pain. If you feel dizzy or lightheaded during the cool showers or any movement, stop immediately. The goal is gentle signaling, not stress. Listen to the voice of your body. It is the most important signal of all. Engagement closing. So, I have to ask you, after reading all of this, which of these 5 shifts resonated most deeply with your own experience? Was it the digestive quieting, the feeling of your wires slowing down, or perhaps the struggle with a desynchronized sleep cycle? I read every single comment, and your stories are the most powerful teaching tool we have. Please share your experience in the comments below. Let's learn from each other. If this conversation has sparked something in you, if it's made you see the landscape of your own body with new eyes, then please subscribe to this channel. We are on a journey here, not to chase youth, but to understand the profound and fascinating territory of aging. We are learning to navigate it with wisdom, not fear. And as you go about your week, I want you to hold this thought. Your body at 70, 80, or 90 is not a broken version of your 30-year-old self. It is a different country, with its own climate, its own terrain, and its own unique beauty. The language spoken there is older, quieter, but no less profound. Your job is not to colonize it with the habits of your youth, but to become a humble, attentive traveler in this new land. To listen to its whispers, to learn its rhythms, and to realize that the conversation is far from over. It has simply changed its tone. And in that new tone, there is a depth and a richness waiting to be discovered.